Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Artist Next Level podcast. I am super, super happy because today here with me in the show, I have Pat Caulfield. She's joining me all the way from Pennsylvania. And today we're going to talk about her own journey as an artist and her current art project with the Glaucoma Research Foundation. And this is something that she is super passionate about, brings her to her own life story. And you don't want to miss it because this episode is going to be inspirational, educational, and all things also very creative from the art journey itself. So thank you for joining us. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be great.
Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Well, hi, Pat. Good to see you today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to see you as well.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to come here to the Artist Next Level podcast to talk about your journey as an artist, first and foremost, and how that has taken you also to what you are doing right now with the Glaucoma Foundation. And so I cannot wait to start diving into that. And I want to say also that we met through the Art Next Level program, which was really great. I remember, when in one of our Zoom sessions where we gathered with other artists, I believe it was, and then you mentioned a little bit about this. I'm like, I got to interview Pat. She has to come to the podcast. She has to tell her story. I got to get to know your story, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of artists today. It's going to be inspirational for all of us. So I cannot wait.
Thank you. I'm absolutely delighted and thrilled to be here. It's just a great opportunity to just create awareness and spread the word and just talk about a little disease that needs to be shine a light on. So.
Absolutely. So let's start first, with your journey as an artist. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Did you always wanted to be an artist? Is that something that came along the way? Tell me kind of how did you decide to become an artist?
Well, I really didn't have any choice. It's just that I always did. And my father actually was the one who was very instrumental in teaching me how to draw, and he would sit and draw with me all the time. He was also an artist. He worked primarily color. Yeah, he worked in watercolor, and he was a photographer. Mm-hmm. So he just really always supported me, for being a little bit different than the rest of the family. But there really was no other choice. I actually worked very realistically for a long time in my artwork. I did a lot of more drawing than I did painting, and eventually I started to get more and more into paint. As we discussed earlier with having glaucoma, I have been diagnosed with glaucoma 11 years ago. What happened that with vision loss, it began to be more difficult to do realistic work because I did very detailed line drawings and very detailed work. But with vision loss, it became more and more difficult. So I decided to take a big jump and went into abstract painting, I guess maybe 5 years ago. And I've never looked back. I love it. It's such a challenge. It's just, it's difficult. And I use any photographic references whatsoever in my work. I just paint. I just sit down and paint. And I work on wood. I use a cradle board.
Okay, yeah.
So I work on wood, and I do a lot of sanding, and I do a lot of distressing and a lot of glazing, and marking up the boards and hitting them with things.
Okay, that's good.
Boards, and I just love it, and
so
working out really well.
That's wonderful. So let's go back a little bit to the time when you're doing the more realistic type of work. Tell me a little bit about what subjects kind of inspired your work back then.
Most of the time I was doing a lot of still life, things, more traditional style of painting, more like old masters style, I'd say. They set up a still life, paint that, paint something from a photograph. Everything was really pretty cut and dried. And the pencil work that I did a lot of pencil work. and it was a lot of crosshatch and a lot of fine line. I was a kitchen and bath designer for 20 years.
Mhm.
And as a kitchen and bath designer, I had to draft all of my floor plans by hand.
Oh, so you were really good at, yeah.
So I think that the fine line work, certainly helped with the drafting, and then the drafting that influenced line work, and how that all came together into a more realistic focus than what I'm doing now.
I got it. So this kind of like fine tune of your hand, in order to like do those renderings and then to do the drawings, and that's something that kind of has been part of your creative process in different areas.
Yes, it is. It's interesting. The clients, I would actually draw elevations and perspective by hand,
Okay.
things that I would design, and they would love them so much. They would end up wanting to keep the drawings.
That is awesome. That is really good. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I went to art school, and I took graphic design class. My first graphic design class, Photoshop, could only do like little things. There was PageMaker. So we had to do a lot of layout by hand, I remember it, and
Yeah.
or design typography by hand, not
I remember
we
that.
did. Yeah. So how much the world has changed,
Oh,
but
yes.
but there was something about it, right? About like really taking that pencil and just like letting your hands just flow with it. Yeah.
I think so too. I think that there was more of a sense of connection between the hand and the eye. I think more so now with the so much design work now that's computerized. It's just, when I had to lay out a floor plan for somebody, they were building that kitchen to my specifications.
Mm-hmm.
I had to measure everything and make sure every single line on my drawing was accurate, because that's what they were building to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, and I just think that hand-eye coordination really just kind of pushed that to another level, and detailed everything.
Yeah.
Even my elevations are completely detailed with
Mm-hmm.
what it was I was just. So I always felt like my kitchen and bath design was more of a art for me, and I really did. I loved what I did. I really did.
Mm. That's awesome. Well, the fact that your clients wanted to keep them as art pieces, that says a lot. That is awesome. That is good. So let's talk about then. You talk about the vision and hand coordination, right? So in this episode, we're going to talk about glaucoma. Tell me a little bit about what happened. What was that first experience for you? When did you notice that maybe there was something that was not right with your?
Well, so that's the thing with glaucoma. You don't notice.
Okay.
I had no idea. As I said, I was diagnosed 11 years ago, and I went in for a regular eye appointment, and the doctor said, "I think you might have glaucoma." And so she sent me to another doctor.
Mm-hmm.
He never really said yes or no. He said, "You need laser surgery." I said, "Well, I'm not going to do that until I get a definitive diagnosis." So I'm very fortunate that I live near the Wilmer Eye Institute at the Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. So I'm about an hour or so away from there. So I immediately made an appointment there, and the doctor, who I still am in touch with, he's amazing, right away said to me, "Yes, you have glaucoma." And things were kept pretty well in check for 5 years. I had no problems. I had to take eye drops every day, but I had no problems. I was just living life as usual,
Mm-hmm.
still working, still designing, still painting, still drawing. Everything was going very well. And about 5 years into that diagnosis, I started rapidly losing vision in my left eye, just out of nowhere. And I could tell, I could see it. I could see the vision going, and we couldn't stop it, which is unusual. That's not normal. Usually glaucoma is a very slow progression, and really don't know it when it's happening. There's no pain. You don't feel anything. Sometimes you don't even notice the vision loss. And that was the case with me. But in this case, when I had started to lose vision very rapidly, I was scared.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
And so we got right into surgery. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
And I had what is called a barbell shunt put into my left eye, which was not fun. it's a plate in the tube, and they put that into your eye, and the recovery time is very long. And I started to step back from the design work because I think it was at least an 8-week recovery, at least.
Yeah. Wow.
And I couldn't promise clients work that I could deliver. So I decided to take a step back. And then once everything calmed down and it was fine, I did great. No problems whatsoever. Everything have stopped. The vision loss seemed to have stopped. And then I started losing vision in my right eye.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But what was very strange about it is the vision in my left eye, the top half of my vision is gone. It's just completely black.
Okay.
But I can see clearly out of the bottom. But in the right eye, it began with central vision loss, which start getting holes in the of your vision, just little gray holes. And they drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Really do. But that started again very rapidly. And so my doctor at Hopkins, my second doctor at Hopkins, got me into surgery, and he did what's called a trabeculectomy, which is not as intensive a surgery as a barbell shunt. And later he did one in the left eye. So the good news is, even though I have, I would say probably 55 to 60% vision loss, the good news is I am now stable and no medication whatsoever.
Wow.
And, I'm back to living life and painting every day and running my dog and, just living life. And you can do that. It doesn't have to be the end of everything for you just because you had this diagnosis. You've got to just keep doing what you love.
Right.
And so things are pretty good right now.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you, Pat, for sharing that journey, because I'm sure it was difficult, for a visual artist, for somebody.
It really was.
It's part of what you do. I mean, the vision, it doesn't matter what you do, it's very important, but as an artist, having that is so important for the work that we create. And that
it really is. And I think as you're first diagnosed, you go through many stages and many emotions, many feelings. And first there's terror,
of course.
And then there's anger. It's just like the stages of grief. It's the same thing.
Of course,
it is a loss. And only when you can accept that this is my condition, this can be managed, I can continue to do what I love. That's when you truly begin to just move forward with your life. But it really stopped me in my tracks. There's no question about it. It stopped me dead in my tracks, after that first surgery. But, once I began to accept it and knew that it could be controlled, the treatments and the research that's going on today is just really light years away from when I was first diagnosed. So that's the good news for everybody out there. That really is.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous. And so let's talk about this transition, right? Because then as you are adapting and changing the type of work that you're doing as an artist, not only you're changing lifestyle and things of that, learning to live with this reality, but then, your artwork, right? As you go back in the studio, tell me about that transition of now working with abstraction, and how hard was it to jump into that? And then how you also, through that, you fell in love with that, which I also would love to hear, how that happened.
Well, there's a lot of interesting correlations, and nothing happens by accident, I suppose. It was interesting when I was recovering from surgery, I would sit and sketch a lot because I didn't want to stop. I just kept sketching.
Yeah.
And, because then I really got sidelined for quite a while. The recoveries took a while. I started taking courses online, and I found one course that was all about abstract. And I thought, oh, I'm never going to be able to do this. You're never going to be able to do this. realistic painter. I'm never going to be able to let go.
Yeah.
It was very, very difficult. So as the course progressed and, I started working on wood boards, I realized what the correlation was in my life, which was crazy.
Mhm.
Before I started my own company, I had my own company for about 10 years. But before that, I was the vice president of sales and marketing for a cabinet manufacturing company.
Okay.
And it was a very large facility.
Mhm.
And, I was always back in the shop because I loved it. I loved watching the things together. The people there were incredible. They were wonderful craftsmen. And I was always back in the finishing room because I just loved it. So I would watch the young woman and the other gentleman that worked in finishing. I would watch them sand, and I'd watch them stain, and I'd watch them paint, and I'd watch them glaze, and I'd watch them do crackle finishes, and I would watch them do
Wow.
finishes, sand it
Mhm.
down, and create these amazing finished pieces. And they were just stunning. And it's a little interesting because now that's what I do on my art boards.
Mhm.
That's exactly what I do on my cradle boards. I set them down, I stain them, I glaze them, I've used crackle.
Yeah.
It's really everything kind of just came full circle, and and I loved being in that finishing room because
Mhm.
it's just so creative.
And
You can do anything.
yeah. No, absolutely. That's one, and it is really fabulous how, you know, at the moment, perhaps when you were looking and observing how they did those things, you would never imagine that you would use what you were looking at, that your mind was absorbing that information, retaining it in the back of your head. So when the
Sure.
moment came up for you, as an artist to create from what we already have, inside, that's part of your visual vocabulary, part of what you have seen, part of you have experienced, but and now being able to kind of like go into the vault of the mind and say, I want to use that. That is now going to be part of my vocabulary as an artist. That is really cool.
But what else is really very interesting is that, we had three girls in my family.
Okay.
And my poor father didn't have a son. So he taught me how to work with wood,
Okay.
how to work with tools. And he and I would sand things together, and we would build things together. And that just always carried through. I had my own business. I worked with a cabinet maker who is a master craftsman, hands down, one of the best cabinet makers I've ever seen.
Wow.
And because he's a single man shop, a lot of times, I would go and help him on larger projects. I've actually stained and glazed things for him and helped him finish things. I always helped him install. He and I would install things together. And he still, now he makes my boards and he makes all of my frames.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, he's amazing. His
So
work is impeccable.
that's great. So tell me about your process as an artist. So you work with acrylic paint, right, on wood.
Yes.
So do you also scrape the surface, or how do you create like textures? What?
I do a lot of different things. I will use anything and everything I can get my hands on
Okay.
just to see what it looks like and how it works. I actually will apply the paint with large brushes. Well, depends. I try to work large. I would prefer to work large. And I'll use large brushes and lay the paint down and get everything on it. And then when I start to blend everything, there are layers upon layers upon layers of paint. And when I begin to blend them, I use a wet shop towel.
Oh, okay.
Even with a brush. So a wet shop towel. I make my own collage papers now. I've just started to do that, which is way more fun than I feel else.
Yeah, that is cool.
But, I make my own collage papers now, and I tear them up and, put them on the boards and, different patterns. And sometimes they get covered up and get sanded down again, and then I bring them back. It's push and pull.
First of all, yeah, adding and subtracting until you get what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, your process too as an artist. And we're gonna put some of those images here in the video podcast as well, so our friends can look at some of your beautiful work. And I want to really talk about what is an important part of this conversation, is what you decided to do as an artist and the role you embarked on, having gone through what you just shared with us, and the discovery of this problem with your vision and going through this process of understanding it, understanding your work. But then you didn't stay there, you didn't say, well, this is what I have, and, now I lost my daughter and here I am. But you took action. You got up and you said, I'm going to do something about this. So I want to hear about that, where was that, that feeling, that idea, and then what are some of the steps that you did to take action?
I had this little idea, and the little idea turned into a big dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that people that are visually impaired need to tell their story. And what better way to do it than with art?
Mm-hmm.
And visually impaired artists, just like everybody else, have a dream. They never thought this would happen to them, and to hear their stories, which is the most important thing about this, to hear their stories and their journeys and their transitions and what they have overcome. Some of the artists that I work with are completely blind.
Well,
and the work that they continue to put out and what they are doing in the communities where they live. And these are people all over the world. I have artists all over the world that contribute to this Glaucoma Research Foundation art show. And I guess about 4 or 5 years ago, I had this little idea about it, and everybody would say, "Oh, that's a nice goal." That's a good thought. Yeah, you should do that.
Yes. Well, so what was the idea that you had?
Well, that I wanted to do a show for visually impaired artists, with them telling their story.
Okay.
I had to find a venue. I wanted to find a place to do it. I wanted to put some attention on these artists and their work and their stories. And oh boy, did I get a lot of news. I mean, it was a lot harder than I ever thought it could have been. And I knocked on a lot of doors and I made a lot of phone calls and I talked to a lot of people over and over again, the Baltimore, Maryland market and up here in PA. And I got this no. Of course, you can't get into a gallery, it's your weight to get into a gallery.
Right.
And of course, I am an impatient person and I didn't, I wanted to get it done. I wanted to get moving. And I did get discouraged, but I didn't stop.
That's the key.
Yeah. I just felt that this was too important of a message to get out. And what it has grown into is incredible. And I posted it on my Facebook page that this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And Nancy Graydon, who is the COO of the Glaucoma Research Foundation, followed my artwork on my Facebook page and said, "Okay, let's talk about this." And I thought, what? What? Let's talk about this. I said, okay. So introduced me to Christopher Wiseman, and he is the director of events, and he is just an amazing person. Everyone there is. Nancy Graydon is just incredible. And we had a couple of Zoom meetings, and he said, we're doing it. And I said, what? And he said, I love it. We're doing it. Let's just run with it. And I said,
wow.
And
what year is this?
This is the third year, so it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago was the first one.
21?
21, yeah, 2021.
Okay.
So then I had to figure out how to find artists.
At that point, you only had the idea, right? Like this idea now. Yeah.
I had the idea, but I didn't have a proposal. So I know how to do that now. So I had this idea and I just started posting on Facebook, and Christopher and Brizette Castellanos, who is the social media director there, they contributed and got, jumped on and got a couple of artists that they knew. And I think we ended up with 15 the first year.
Okay.
Last year, I think we had 28. And I think we're probably going to end up about 28 to 30 this year. They don't want it to get too huge.
Yeah.
Because they frame the work,
wow. And yes. So tell me about the show. So it is an exhibition.
Yes.
is there also an auction part of that? Tell me a little bit about the details.
Actually, all the artwork is on display for 3 days. Last year and this year, it will be at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco, which is an extraordinarily stunning venue. This beautiful historic building. And there is a gala the first night, it's 3 days, it's in February. The gala is the first night, and then there are 2 days of seminars and, all types of interactions and networking, and it's terrific. So the gala kicks it off, and all the artwork is displayed on tables. So there's a sign-up sheet there, and there's a silent auction, and then you bid on each piece as it goes. And everything is sold. It has just been truly incredible.
Amazing.
To see the response. But the most satisfying thing to me is that everyone that bought a painting all wanted to take that bio with them.
Wow.
Because each paint has their bio, the artist sitting next to it. And that was so important. And that's the one thing that I kept stressing, that bio and that journey was really what I wanted to showcase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The artist, the means, but the story behind it is what's the most important.
Mm-hmm.
So it's shown for 3 days, and then at the close, of the auction, then of course the people can take their piece and the bio.
That is fabulous. I love it, and by doing so, also bringing awareness, right, and helping artists too. So there's many components to it. Matching an artist with a collector or somebody who will have access to that artwork, who may end up being a person who ends up buying more pieces from that artist because of that first one, which a lot of times can happen too. So, as you start this new process in this early stage, you don't know the repercussions that this will have in the future for particular artists who are being part of it.
I don't, and it's been overwhelming. I have artists in California. I have artists in Iowa. I have somebody in London who is, this guy is incredible. He is almost completely blind, but he has retinitis pigmentosa, which is different. But he does Braille pieces. All of his work is done in Braille. Wow. And he's becoming so popular in London. He is just taking off. And he's teaching blind children how to read his art.
Amazing. Wow.
So he is amazing. He truly is. And there's another woman, she's in India, and she contributes every year, and her pieces are so sought after because they're so good. And wow. She does glaucoma, and she is a physician. Serena Hassan is her name. And she's legally blind. And so she's going in India. She is trying to raise awareness in India and, trying to help people with glaucoma find treatment and, what they need. But her artwork is it's so beautiful. You can't even imagine. And she has stopped her, she's really amazing.
Yeah. Oh, and the beautiful thing that is becoming this network of artists who now, through your project, through your vision, through that idea, through your willingness of keep knocking on doors and not giving up and putting it out into the universe. This is what I want to do. And you never know who was going to read that, right? Perhaps as a moment of desperation, like, I'm just going to share it on Facebook and see what happens. And that actually was the door that opened everything. And, that in itself, I think it's a big lesson for anyone listening or watching to this episode, because how often, we knock on a few doors and we get discouraged, like, oh, nobody cares, this idea of mine, maybe it's just too crazy, maybe it's not good enough. We start listening to our own voices inside our head. It says, maybe, it's not being welcome. It's not going to happen, right? But that persistence and that consistency, and like you said, when you get a no, is not good. It's not fun, right? Nobody likes to get a no. It's good to, we see it in retrospect, but at the moment, no is no is no is no. It's like, what's going on, right? What is the universe trying to say, maybe? But then as you continue and persist and put the word out into the world, that also brought in, this new opportunity. And I think that's, for anyone listening, if you have a heart for something, or a passion for something, an idea that it just keeps coming back. And like in your case, particularly, not a selfish idea that is just going to benefit you, but an idea that can benefit the world, that can help others, that can bring awareness. And as you said, those stories must be told. Those stories must exist in the world. And I'm just going to do my part, right? And let the other things just happen by themselves. And that's what I wanted to bring you in, Patrick, because I think that is absolutely amazing. It will be really fun, 5 years from now to go back and catch up and see how this continues to grow, how the artists would continue to, to be also touched by this. How do you go about finding artists for your project?
Yeah, it's I make a lot of phone calls. I do a lot of research. I do a lot of digging. I have been fortunate enough, that now I can start posting things on Facebook, and people are just starting to respond.
Mm-hmm.
I think because now I have a little bit more of a background than just starting out cold a couple of years ago. Now I have beautiful photos of the artwork on display, and and the artists see it, and it's just it's fulfilling for them, because to be able to do something that's outside of yourself, that speaks to everyone on some level. I'm sure no one wants to have any type of vision loss, and everyone is terrified of it. Believe me, I've talked to people about it, and it's just a fact of life. And things happen without our permission. This happened to me, and I just felt I had to get past it and do something to help find a cure or find a way, to vision, which is actually what glaucoma research is doing now. It's pretty amazing, pretty incredible. I never thought I would be able to say that. I've seen what has happened over the last 11 years, and these artists, they are so important because each one of them has had, they have such completely different stories, one from the next. There's no two alike. And what is the most wonderful is that I have developed relationships with these people. And that is really, really cool part. Talk about each other's artwork, we share each other's stories, we keep in contact with each other. And that's the best part of it for me. It really is. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot through them and from them. And I see how it touches people. At this auction, I just see how people stop and they pick up their stories and they read them, and they talk about them, and that's the means of getting the message out that can be a cure one day.
Yeah.
For me, again, as I said, to be a part of something outside of myself that's larger than me, very fulfilling.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and it's a beautiful cause. Do you have a name for the project itself?
It's just the Art Show and Auction, the Glaucoma Research Foundation Art Show and Auction. We haven't gotten that far yet.
I think it would be a good idea. Let's start coming up with a name, and then with a brand for that.
Yeah, I've talked about it. It just, it takes me probably a solid year to curate the work. It really does. And, once you get the yes, then you have to get the work in, then you have to get the bio, the thing has to be tweaked and written and, finalized. Everything has to be framed. Then it has to, it's a lot of work. And
it's a lot of chasing around now, of course.
It's a lot of chasing around. And, it's a lot. It takes me probably, I would say, 9 months to a year.
Yeah, no,
everything.
I totally understand. As a curator, hanging the show is the easy part. It's chasing all the information and putting it all together. That's where all the work is.
Gosh, it truly is. And we have one very special little artist whom I absolutely adore. Her name is Azalea.
Okay.
3 years old, and she has glaucoma.
Oh.
And she has had about 6 surgeries. and she loves to paint. She loves to draw. She loves to paint. She loves to sing. She loves to dance. Um, she's my little sweetheart. I've really gotten to know her family and her, and it's just amazing that there was a bidding war on some of her pieces last year. So I told her mother, "You've got to give me more than one."
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
But she's 3.
Wow,
So,
incredible,
the truth
incredible.
is, and her work is great. I mean, she really has a really nice art. She's a good artist.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. I love it. And so, when is the event? Is it a particular month when you do it every year?
It's every February. I think it's February 8th, 9th, and 10th this year. And it's at the St. Francis. And the information is on the Glaucoma Research website. There are 300 to 400 people there at that event. And then the seminars, there's even more. There's a lot of people there. So a lot of people walk through and see this art. And of course, I promote it everywhere. I promote it on all my social media pages, and Glaucoma Research does too. So it's got to be quite a thing.
Wonderful. And so the next one will be in February of 2024.
Yes.
And you're already working on finding artists for that one.
Yes, I am. I think I have maybe 6 pieces right now.
How many?
16. I think.
16.
Yeah, maybe more. I'm not counting my own because I donate 2 or 3 of my own. So I'm probably around 19 or 20 pieces. They always tell me to stop at 20, but you know.
Couple more, right?
I want it to look good.
Yes, exactly. Well, that is amazing, Pat. I want to congratulate you for this big effort. And I want to also, now as we're chatting, and to also offer, for you to think about it too. If you would like to have the show also online next year in 2024, I'll be happy to host it at sergiogomezcurates.net. Absolutely, totally free for you, and of course, with all the links, so everything goes directly for you guys. So. If you would like that, we can talk. We can talk later. But I think that would be great, so that other people outside of the event can also virtually visit the show. Walk into a room where they can look at the artwork, they can hear the stories. Perhaps we can record some of the artists' voices telling their stories, and have a virtual experience for what you're doing there in person. So. I think it will be something really wonderful, beautiful that we can also do.
See this little seed that turned into a dream, and it's still growing. So I truly appreciate that so much. I mean, it's just really incredible. After the first show, I said to Christopher, I said, "You have made my dream come true." Mm-hmm. Not believe that it happened, and now. With you and just other people that want to get involved, it's just really kind of turning almost into my life's work, I think. Which kind of interesting.
That's great, and all goes back to you being an artist, which is the most beautiful part, because you are an artist yourself, and you are an artist with a mission.
I am. I say that all the time.
That's awesome. I love it, and what a wonderful and beautiful vision and mission. And a lot of times it just takes one yes for more yeses to come, right? It's just finding that one yes and not giving up until that one yes comes in. And like you said, once you put one in the door, then the second one becomes easier. Now the words keep spreading out, and more yeses will come. And now even as this continues, you won't have to knock on doors. Doors will be open, before you, without you even knocking. So that's a wonderful thing.
I've had so many amazing things happen to me since I did so a lot for the Glaucoma Research Foundation. I was their keynote speaker last year at their patient summit. They've certainly gotten me out of my comfort zone.
That's great.
And I spoke at the gala last year, and I think I probably will again next year.
And tell us about the award, because you receive an award.
No,
No? Oh no, that was the speaking, right?
Yeah, that
you
was speaking. Yeah.
okay, but you were, so in other words, you were invited to speak.
Yes, I was invited.
Okay, well, it's almost like an award in itself, right? Because,
Well, I was invited to. I've been speaking for the past 2 years at Boston University,
uh-huh.
in the biomedical science division, and I'm working with an instructor there who teaches a class, and this is incredible that they teach a class like this there on artists with vision loss and how it affects their art. Of course, you have Degas, you have Monet, you have Mary Cassatt, you have very famous artists, but I do about an hour and a half lecture for the university now for the honor students.
Wow.
About how vision loss affects art, and we get into the nuts and bolts of it because they're in biomedical neuroscience.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So I mean that came up because of this this art show.
Yeah.
Out about me from this art show and asked me if I wanted to lecture, and I said sure. And she's been asking me back every year, and I just love it. I love the students. I love their questions. They're just, it's just really fun. So that's something else that came out of this, which is crazy.
I love it. I love it. Well, Patricia, I'm sure there will be friends who are watching this or listening to this in the podcast, maybe as they're driving or they're doing something or working in the studio, and who would like to get in touch with you, would like to know more about your project, or maybe they know someone who could benefit from what you are doing. Please tell us how can they get a hold of you, and how can also they support the Glaucoma Research Foundation.
Well, you can either, catch up with me, DM me on Instagram for sure, or you can always email me. It's patcaulfield@gmail.com. And the Glaucoma Research Foundation, you can just go to their website. It's glaucoma.org. All the information about the gala and the seminars is on there. And the patient summit, I think, is next week in Long Beach. So that's next week. And all of the events that they do. So you can certainly get in touch with them. And if you have any questions about glaucoma, their website is very succinct. It's very up to date. It's very informative. That's where I went when I was first diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
You can get all kinds of information if you have been diagnosed, and it is just a wonderful, wonderful resource. And I could not recommend it any more highly than I am right now. They're just an incredible group of people.
Excellent.
So yeah, definitely get it.
Thank you. And we're going to put the links also in the comments, or not, in the description of the episode too. We'll also links to your Instagram and all the information on your website, and all for also our friends who may want to also look at your art, because you are also wonderful artists too, besides the amazing work that you are doing with the Glaucoma Research Foundation. And a couple more things really quickly before we close the episode. One is, what would you say to an artist right now who's going through a difficult situation, but has an idea, just like you had that idea, some years ago, and maybe it's getting a lot of no's, or maybe it's afraid to even knock on one door because there's that voice that says, who's gonna care, or it's too hard, or whatnot. What would you say to that artist?
I think that when you are given those little ideas, those are nudges that push you in a direction that you can't even imagine the outcome. Just like with me, I could not have imagined this outcome from this little idea of mine. And don't stop. Don't just take that no and okay, grumble about it a little bit, but go on to the next one and just keep moving and just keep moving and just don't stop. And it becomes, as I said, it has become my life's work, and I'm very passionate about it. I truly, because I've seen not only the effect on the people that view the art, but how each one of these artists feels knowing that they're a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that really brings it around. This was never about me. This was never about me. This was always about the art. It was always about the artists. It was always about their journeys. And to me, if you have that little idea and it won't let go of you. Don't let go of it.
If it wakes you up at night, it's a real deal.
Yes, it is.
I love that. I love it. No, that's awesome, and I think what a wonderful word of advice, right? If you get a no today, tomorrow's a brand new day. Start from new. Start from.
It's a great big world,
Yeah.
and there's somebody out there that's going to say yes, and you just have to find them.
Yeah.
Big world.
And speaking about a big world, as we wrap up, how did you find us here inside the Art Next Level?
Oh, actually, a friend of mine referred me to you.
Oh, good.
Kira Moore, she referred me. She's a member, and she's always saying to me, "You have to join this group. You have to join this group." And I'm working on a proposal, ironically,
Very
for
good.
another little idea that I have.
Good.
That keeps me up at night.
So, did you watch the course already on the 7 steps to creating a killer exhibition proposal?
Yes, it was just what I needed, and I loved it, and I've watched it more than once, and I'm already almost done with my next proposal.
Very good.
So, yeah, I am working on that, and I'm really looking forward to the upcoming class on pricing your art, because that's always a problem.
Yeah, that's probably.
Well, that, and the marketing course was really good today. On Instagram marketing, that was really very, very good. So I think that this came, I feel like I'm really just starting career, if that makes any sense. Because I'm gonna be honest, my work was good, but now it's authentic, and I think that is what makes the difference. I'm winning awards. I'm getting into juried shows. That didn't happen 5 years ago. And I think it's because the art has become truly a part of me, and there's an authenticity about it that there never was.
Yeah.
So, finding you and finding your courses just came at the best time for me, and I've learned so much. It's just been great.
Oh, well, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Thank you for sharing as well. That's amazing. We have a wonderful and beautiful community with artists just like you in their own journey. I'm an artist, so I'm in my own journey too, and we all learn from each other. We all inspire each other, and that's why I gotta bring Pat, because and I just inspired our small group there. We went inspired many, many artists around the world too, through your story. So thank you again for joining us today. Super excited. Want to wish you the best of success in your show. We'll of course be in touch inside our next level, and anything else that we can help you and support you in your project. Count on us. It will be amazing. And I want to invite all our friends, who listen to this episode. Do us a big favor. Pat and I will be so happy if you click on that little share button. Share this episode with all your friends. You never know who's might need these words today that were shared here. Words of advice by our good friend Pat. So make sure that you share that. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure that you also review this podcast. Give us a review on iTunes. Helps us to get to more people, to more artists from around the world. So thank you again for watching or listening. And thank you, Pat. Have a great, amazing day.
You too.
Thank you. And I will see you, my friends, in the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.